The Fed chairman sets the agenda for the FOMC and for the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve. So he manages both the monetary policy decision-making process and he sets the regulatory environment for the Fed. Even just this morning, we're seeing the bank supervision regulation report out of the Fed. Things like that actually matter a lot when it comes to the amount of credit that's created and how the credit cycle and the business cycle evolve. Most importantly for folks, though, is that the Fed chairman sets the tone when it comes to monetary policy and guiding market expectations around the interest rate environment.
When I'm talking to market experts about their year-ahead outlook, they're generally optimistic, but the one risk that they keep flagging over and over again is concern over Fed independence. What does this potential decision mean for that narrative? If it does turn out to be Kevin Hassett, is that kind of worsening it?
Well, it's interesting. So Kevin Hassett was probably the one candidate among the list of finalists, the one candidate on the short list who seemed to have the most baggage when it came to political independence. He's coming from the White House, and as opposed to somebody like current Fed Governor Chris Waller or current Fed Governor Mickey Bowman, he doesn't have the same institutional credibility. He looks like he could be a bit more under Trump's thumb. When they rolled out or floated this test balloon to see how markets would react to somebody like Kevin Hassett taking the chairmanship, look, he passed with flying colors. Equities rallied, rates fell. It's everything that they would have wanted to see. And frankly, I think that's probably what sealed the deal for a potential Hassett nomination. It's not to say that the decision has been finalized or announced yet, but odds are heavily in his favor after that trial balloon has been floated and after markets responded as they did.
Remind us what happens to Jerome Powell and what time frame?
So it's interesting. When you're on the Board of Governors and when you're in a leadership role, you have two different job titles that are running on parallel tracks. So Chairman Powell is both a chairman of the Federal Reserve, and his chairmanship expires in May of 2026. He also has a governorship. He is also a governor of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, and his governorship expires in 2028. So coming up, we're going to see somebody appointed to fill the chairmanship role. And if Chairman Powell, upon the expiration of his chairmanship, also resigns his governorship, that creates another opportunity for President Trump to appoint another governor to the Fed board.
Okay.
So what we're expecting to see before Christmas is an announcement of the next Fed chairman who would take Powell's seat as chairman starting in May. And then in May, we'll find out whether Chairman Powell wants to leave the institution completely. And if he does, Trump has another opportunity.
His intentions?
He hasn't. He has not said anything yet. He's preserving a bit of optionality because if he were to stay on, he would be an extremely powerful governor on the board. And he could, as Alex was saying, as Alex was alluding to, he could help to mitigate any sort of the potential politicization of the Fed if Powell were to stay on the board. If he were to stay on the board, it would be almost unprecedented. I can only think of two instances in Federal Reserve history where a former chairman has stayed on as a governor after the end of their chairmanship because it creates some confusion about who's actually leading and setting the agenda. And so I would expect that when the next person is nominated to take Powell's role as chairman, he will ultimately resign his governorship, but we're going to have to wait until May to find out.